So welcome back to my channel. This is Gamer Dom and time for another top 5. So we've done top 5 tier 6, tier 7s. Now of course inevitably we're on the tier 8, the most popular, the most common, the most abused tier in the game, the one that sees most tier 10 matches anyway. So gonna look at the top damage dealing tank destroyers at tier 8. Using as ever the wonderful resource of vbaddicts.net, who basically compile stats for everything you can imagine. You can even look at how certain maps perform across all servers, across all tiers, and it's just wonderful, absolutely fantastic. It's basically compiles them for the last 30 days, so that's what you get. So as ever, I'll take the top 5 of the TDs according to how much damage they have caused, typically on average, and we'll do that in reverse order, so 5 down to 1. Then we'll do some gameplay showing the number 1 in action, and then we'll show the best of the rest, so the bottom 3. Now there are 18 tier 8 tank destroyers, and I'm just going to say the premiums feature quite heavily. There's a surprise. Let's get cracking. So at number 5 for the top 5 most damage dealt TDs at tier 8 in the game right now is one of the newer ones. This is the premium tier 8 French tank destroyer, the AMX CDA 105. 18,747 games, 1,217.64 average damage per game. That's a lot of damage. And why is this thing so useful? I love this. One of my favourite tanks in the game, bar none personally. It's got a really good 105mm gun. Look at this thing. 5.22 rounds per minute, penetration with the standard round 260, and if you want the skill shell 310, and an average of 390 damage, which is very good. Dispersion is excellent, 0.3, and aim time of 2. So you know you've got a tier 9, certainly they say tier 10 gun on a tier 8 tank destroyer, which means it can compete. The other area it can compete is in its mobility. It's a very sprightly thing. Only weighs 28 tons, something like that. 720 horsepower engine gives it the sort of pickup that a medium tank would die for. 26.39 power ratio at 55 top speed, and it whips around pretty well at 32.06 traverse speed. Armor is deceptive. It's only 100 mils on the front there, but it is, you can see, very well angled, and I do bounce a lot of shots in mine. Just ask Shoot and Scoot. He moans constantly. He never bounces anything, but I do. Side and rear is garbage, but very nice. And concealment, well, I've got a decent crew in this, and camo paint, but even then 35.55 camo. So there you go, that is your number 5. So number 4 is a British institution. This is the British tier 8 turreted tank destroyer, the Charioteer. Excellent tank destroyer. In the old days, before they buffed the Challenger at tier 7, this thing, you earned your salt to try and get to this thing, and when you got there it was well worth it, because this is a beauty. Now I understand the tier 7 now is pretty good. In fact, statistically it ranks very highly indeed, but this thing you know is just an awesome beast. One of my favorite TDs in the game. Got quite a grind on it though. The initial gun, the 20mm here, is okay. It's not a bad gun, and if you have got a bit of mobility, so if you pick your targets well, you can survive. But the top gun, the 105mm, is where it's at. You can see it's quite a lot of some of these modules you've already got, but yeah, it's those guns you need. That's what wins it for you on this thing. So how many games? Whole lot of games. A lot of people play the Charioteer very well. 51,023 games. 1,218.50 average damage. That's a lot of damage. So across quite a lot of games, so quite surprising. So let's look at that top gun. This is the 105mm anti-tank L7 gun, 5.94 rounds per minute, good penetration, 268 with a standard round, only 210 with the premium round, which is somewhat surprising. And it does use, oh actually that's because that's a premium Hesh, isn't it? I keep forgetting that. So that's a Hesh shell. So yeah, you do a lot more damage with that. 480 and 210 penetration is pretty good actually. 105 with the standard HE shell do 480 average damage. So it's his one, I guess it is its one downside. If you reach for the skill round, the Challenger doesn't really have it. Sorry, Charioteer doesn't really have it. It has that Hesh cell, which is great when you're going up against all the Brigettos that there are out there at the moment, because you'll go through that like butter and do the full 480 average damage. So 390 with its standard rounds, its APCR rounds, and 480 with the two HE varieties. 0.35 dispersion is okay, and 2.4 aim time is also pretty reasonable. So firepower wise, it's got a good gun. It's got good gun depression, -10, with a decent crew. You know, I've got a very good crew in this now. Coming through their third skill. 2,746 average damage per minute with a gun rammer, and brothers in arms that has. So yeah, very nice indeed. Armor, it's garbage. It's based on is it a Conqueror? No, sorry, a Comet chassis. So you know, no real armor to speak of. So you need to use the other asset this thing has, is its mobility. 36.5 ton vehicle, 650 horsepower engine is getting 21.23 power ratio, which isn't up there with the CDA, but it is still pretty useful. Top speed of 52 is okay, and actual hull traverse is 39.38. So pretty nimble, pretty good gun, just pretty good all round really. Camo's not the best, it's quite a big tank, so 31 I'm getting with a decent crew with virtually full camo, and paint on it. So yeah, not the best in terms of that, but very good view range, very good view range. So I think it's 380, something like that. So yeah, nice little tank, comes in at number 4. Number 3 is the cash register. This is the Strv S1, the Swedish Tier 8 tank, premium tank destroyer. Again, a lot of games, even more than in the Charioteer. 159,885 games in the last 30 days, and it's averaging 1284.23 damage per game. So it gives it out like you would not believe. It's a very tasty TD, very popular out there. There's only one that's more popular. That's still to come, guys. Does feature an extremely good 105mm main armament. 5.88 rounds per minute is okay. 288 standard penetration is excellent. Firing APCR, which is a very fast firing shell type, so it hits the target very rapidly. Excuse me, very rapidly indeed. 330 with its premium composite rigid shell, and 390 average damage. Dispersion when it's not in hold down position, once it's, because this thing has the stabilizing system, you hit the X button and it goes into a siege mode, and when you're firing out of that, the shooting is absolutely god awful. So that dispersion of 0.4 when you're in transport mode or movement mode goes down to a whopping 0.3 when in siege mode. Means it's an extremely accurate sniper. Very good. And the other advantage of the siege mode is that once you're in it, your camo and binoculars stay operational even when you're turning round, and every other variety of tank destroyer you move in any way, your camo is lost, and so is your binoculars. So this has a huge advantage as a baseline camper, and is extremely good at that. So the other thing to say about this, and most people will know this when you get to tier 8, is that once the frontal plate of this, although it's only 30mm, once it's in siege mode, anything less than 121 millimeters will pretty much auto bounce off this thing. It's it's surprising how much, because of the angling of that. When it gets into siege mode, the angle is so extreme that nothing penetrates unless it has an auto pen value, which, as we know, is 3 times the value of the armor. So yeah, actually that's 90 millimeters. Anyway, whatever. It has to be a big gun. So very, very good indeed. Now the downside I have, well, the thing I dislike about this thing is it's a little bit slow. 50 kph, only 16 power ratio, unlike the UDES, which whips around very, very rapidly, which is the tier 8 non-premium version. But it doesn't perform as well as this thing does. This thing, as we saw, does 1284.23 damage per game, and that's a lot of damage. So very, very nice, very good cash generator. And that's your number 3 in the top 5. So hands up who thought this would come in at number 1. I must confess I did too. So the Rheinmetall Skorpion G is probably the most popular tank in the game. It has a whopping 403,555 games in the last 30 days. That's a heck of a lot of games. And pretty much every tier 8, or even tier 7, tier 8, tier 9 game will feature at least one of these beasties on each side. It's a German tier 8 premium tank destroyer, sold fairly regularly by Wargaming when they want a little bit of cash out of us all. And it has a bit of a monster reputation, and rightly so. In the hands of somebody who knows what they're doing, it's extremely good. Averaging 1,292.48, and I guess if it hadn't had 400,000 games averaged across the servers, it probably would be a bit higher than that, because, as I say, some people play this extremely well, other people not so good, and you know, and with all averages, that equals out at the end of the day. So why is this thing a little bit special? Well, it's a combination thing really. It's got a good gun, 128 millimeter gun, 4.92 rounds per minute, only 246 penetration with the standard rounds, but whenever I come up against these things, everyone's using the skill rounds of 311 because 490 average damage is very nice. Dispersion of 0.3, although for me it doesn't feel like that. I've got a good crew, fully equipped. Yeah, I miss a lot of shots in this, but it says on paper 0.3 and aim time of 2.1. The other thing that's very useful in this tank is its mobility. It can get around pretty well. It's only a 39-ton vehicle, 650 horsepower engine, only 16.78 power ratio, but it gets up to top speed of 60 pretty quickly. So you see a lot of people playing this like a medium tank almost. 37.09 traverse is also very good indeed. Conversely, well, again, this is one of the things I find very difficult. I see people playing, you know, gameplay of this thing, people hiding in bushes until they're virtually walked into. My experience is I get spotted from right across the map. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff on here: chocolate, camo, brothers in arm, concealment skills, and I'm getting 36.79. I don't believe that is correct. It just doesn't feel it for me anyway. But the camo on paper is pretty reasonable, and the spotting is also very good indeed. So it's a very good all-round strong tank destroyer. It would have a good credit potential if you didn't spam gold in it, but pretty much everybody does, so doesn't make that as much money as it probably should do, but a very strong tank destroyer, which I really expected to see at number 1. So I'm actually delighted to see this at number 1. This is the top damage dealing tier 8 tank destroyer in the game right now, according to VB Adex across the last 30 days on all servers, just averaging out all the stats across all the different servers. So 75,000 games, 1,300.40 average damage, so only just probably 8 damage more than the Skorpion G, but still more. This is the Chinese tier 8 premium tank destroyer, and one of my favourite tanks in the game. This and the CDA, I think, my 2 favourite tanks right now. It's just awesome, absolutely awesome. big ass gun on it, 122mm gun, 6.12 rounds per minute, only 248 penetration, which isn't as good as some of its competitors, 310 with a premium round, but 440 average damage. Makes people really sit up and pay attention. Dispersion of 0.37 is not great, and 2.9. Aim time is nothing special, but again, this was a this was a tank I recommended to shoot and scoot, because I said, well, you'd love it. And he couldn't hit a barn door in it. He sold it in the end. Personally, I love it. I've got a reasonably good crew. In fact, they're on their second skill, aren't they? Yeah, second skill. They haven't even got brothers in arms yet, but I don't have too much trouble hitting things. And the other thing with this tank is its armor. Again, it's a bit like the CDA, deceptively strong armor. Hang on, I'm hoping the right box would help. 120mm of frontal armor, but look at the sloping on that thing. I mean, I blocked tier 10 shots in this quite regularly, and if you're just above people slightly, it accentuates that frontal plate even more, and you can bounce on almost anything in this. So pretty good for that point of view. And mobility wise, similarly not bad at all. Gets around pretty well, not as fast as the CDA, 15.89 power ratio, but at a top speed of 50. But look at the traverse speed, 46.04. This thing whips around quicker than a light tank can circle it, which is just awesome. And with this decentish crew with a gun rammer, I'm getting 3.122 rounds per minute, which again is absolutely brilliant. Concealment values is not that good, 27.09, and I think that's really reflective of how this thing needs to be played. It's an assault gun. It needs to be relatively close to, it's sort of medium to short engagement tank, not necessarily a big sniping thing. And gun depression is only -6, so it's difficult to really take advantage of this as a sniper. But very, very strong TD, one of my favourite, as I say, personal favourites. I was somewhat surprised that the Skorpion G wasn't top of the pile, but nope, the Chinese have it. So let's take it out, or have somebody take it out for us and see how it plays. Okay, so have I got a game for you to show this WZ fake tank off to its very, very best. Now forgive the horrible camo. This is number CZ, and he's in a tier 9 game on Paris. Now I don't know whether you guys use mods. I do, obviously, and you can see from the mods here, according to XVM, the enemy team is absolutely awesome, and it's the sort of game where you kind of go, shoot, I've got no chance here. How am I gonna survive long enough in this game? But actually, he's going to show you how you survive. Nice shot into the IS. Wasn't spotted doing it, I don't think. Is he going to come back? He is. He said, oh, and he hit his own. Oh no! What kind of bad luck is that? Jeez. He. Oh dear, dear, dear. He hit his own WZ132A as it was trying to pull back. I mean, absolutely no intention whatsoever. Actually, I think he only hit the gun. But anyway, back to the game. So that's not what you want in the game, where you're up against it. That Russian heavy tank there, the ISM, is look at the bounce on this. He can't pen us from here, and we can pen him every single time. Look at this gun. Loads pretty quickly. He's not going to get away. Sure enough, there he goes. Good. In fact, we didn't get the kill. Somebody else did. Oh, there's a Black Prince out there. Now he's got no chance of penning us either. Put a shell into his sort of drive wheel area there. That round did pen us there, but look at the return shot. He's doing 150 when he does manage to pen. We did 500 on him. Another shot from the Black Prince. Give him his dues. He hasn't changed to premium, so good on him. Okay, so that's our second kill. Was it first kill? I forget now. But anyway, 3,600 damage. Look at this. Awesome. Dueling with a Tiger. blocking a Progetto out there somewhere in World of Progettos as it is at the moment. Look at that, blocked 2 shells by the Progetto. Track that AMX, the AMX can't pen him either, reloading so quickly. Got him as well. Oh, just awesome. Just awesome. And such is the durability of this tank. It blocks shells, it gives out a lot of damage. That Type 59 is trying to run for it. Don't know why he's running up backwards towards us, but he's going to pay for it with another 400 hit. Just wonderful. Progetto's there. Yeah, we can pen him too. 5,868 damage, and the game is less than 4 minutes old. What a game. Right, we're going balls deep now. We're going in to I mean, look at that camo. Can we get that FV out there? He knows we're coming. No, he's not paying. Oh, he is paying attention. Got hit in the gun, repaired the gun immediately. Enemy team is in our cap. It is 9 plays 7. Oh, there's a light tank there. Nice shot again. 6,000 damage. 6,700. Blocks the return shot and still manages to hit the retreating RU for a whopping 586 damage. Strunthwagen. Oh, look at that beauty. Blocks his return shot, and this is what I love about this tank. It's got a bit that 120 sloped armor is just awesome, and the gun dishes it out. He's dished out 7,844 damage. I mean, I've forgiven that armor just for that. I mean, just awesome. Going a bit balls deep here. FV doesn't want to play. No wonder. He does actually pen us. Right, be better to almost face hug him now. Chances of him penning us. Ah, he gets us anyway. Should have slight misplay there, if I'm absolutely honest. He should have face hugged him and he would have had a chance of not being penned. But you know, we know about the graphic setting now, so that's all good. So 8,252 damage. He blocked 2,255. Absolutely awesome. So let's head over to see other perspective. This is the AMX 30 doing his funky stuff. So number CZ can't quite believe it. He's just saying in chat, I did 8,000 damage. You wouldn't expect to do 8,000 damage in a tier 8 premium tank destroyer in this kind of company. It was a tier 9 game and there were some very, very good players on the enemy team, and yet he just wrecked them. Not as in bottom, you know, he wrecked them. That's what I mean, not wrecked them. I mean, anyway, what am I saying? Can this AMX circle the Sioux? Yes, indeed, he can. Right, 2 enemy tanks remaining. An extremely good even 90, but he really doesn't have much chance on this map. Even though that tank is very, very good fun in the hands of a very good player like that guy. I haven't got much hope against these guys. Somebody's eating the T29. Oh, there he is. He's behind us. He's behind you. He's taken down. See, ELC is only on 89 health. Oh, I'm getting drunk from jumping around. Stop it now. Can they catch him? Let's have a look at the mini-map. They're chasing. They're chasing. It's about this point where one of them should really just go and sit on the cap. Maybe the OHO. Because chasing down a little ELC is not the easiest thing in the world. Back with the AMX. Oh, there he is. He's behind our OHO. Good grief. Chasing this guy down is not the... Don't ram each other! Yeah, it looks like the OHO's going for the cap, which is a good sound philosophy. Ah, but he managed to get the even 90 on the way through. Good game. Fantastic. Good job. What I loved about that game was it almost incredulity you could see from number CZ when he put in the chat that he'd done over 8,000 damage in that game. Absolutely fantastic, brilliant game, played it beautifully, and you just got to see the what I love about that TD, a very, very powerful gun with a bit of armor, actually, surprisingly, which you know, as I say, I'm a little bit surprised by, but finishes, or I'm not surprised about as I play it, but it is surprising. 120mm slope back like it is, bounces a lot of shots. He ended up getting Ace Tanker, he got Bruiser, Duelist, Fire for Effect, and Confederate. Finished up top of his team, unsurprisingly. 8,252 damage, 2 kills, 1935 base XP. 8,000, jeez. Finished up firing 21 shots. He hit with 20 and he penned with 20 for that 8,000 damage. He took 19 hits himself, 7 of which penned, 12 bounced for 2,255 blocked. He did 250 damage to his own friendly light tank that was pulling back, and he actually did kill him. Blimey, but it was just so unfortunate. Just the timing could not have been any. He was aimed in to fire that ISM and just pulled the trigger exactly at the wrong moment and took down one of his friendly tanks. Look at that, 210,000 credits, lost nearly 5,000, but still 206 profit. Didn't see him fire any premium at all, so 174,686 profit out of that game. And with the bonuses for driving a premium tank, 4,637 XP for his crew. Absolutely superb. Great game, and really shows off what the WZ's all about. Bit of mobility, some real bounceability on the armor, and some real punchability. Does that make sense? Yeah, anyway, I'm going to stick with it. Okay, we've seen the best, let's see the rest. So at number 16, so third from the bottom of the pile for tier 8 tank destroyers, for damage dealt across all servers in the last 30 days according to VB Addicts, is the British tier 8 sorry TD, the AT-15. 18,246 hellish games people have played in this, and it's averaging 865.21 damage per game. I'm a little bit biased, as you can probably tell. I hated this. It's one of the very few tanks that I've actually just free XP'd through because I just couldn't abide it. The others up to this point were okay, but this thing, oh, just hell. So lots and lots of upgrade options on this thing, which is another reason for hating it, because you have to play through it a long time. Top of the pile though is an actually okay gun. It's got 20 pounder barrel B, or type B barrel gun, which is penetration 226. You know, because all the others are 240, 250. So you know, 226 is a bit lackluster. Only 258 with its premium rounds, and averaging 230 average damage. Good rate of fire, as you'd expect with the British tanks. It's you know, it whips out the shell every 12 rounds per minute, so giving it a pretty high DPM, but you know, pen is just lackluster. And even switching to the standard rounds, 258 is not great, and you're going to burn a lot of credits. Dispersion and aim time are very good, 0.3 and 1.7 respectively. So yeah, just that's it. Armor wise, again, you know, on the surface it's not too bad. 228 frontal armor, but look how flat a lot of this is, and without any real angling, 228 is not really going to help you when you're up against, you know, things like defenders and tier 9s and tier 10 tanks, which inevitably you're going to be in this thing. It's also extremely slow moving, like all the AT tanks. You know, you're talking a big ass tank carrying around quite a lot of armor, 60 tons, 650 horsepower engine, but only a 10.75 power ratio, and a top speed of, what's that, 20 kph is just disgraceful. Traverse speed of 20.86, which means fast mediums can circle you and kill you. And concealment values, it's horrible. 11.9 is not great either. So you've got a you know, a gun that has lackluster penetration at best, high rate of fire, but isn't concealable, and the armor just gets pens relatively easy, which is why it comes in at number 16, third from the bottom. So the second worst Tier 8 tank destroyer in the game, according to VB Addicts over the last 30 days, coming in at number 17, is the Kanonenjagdpanzer, the Tier 8 premium German tank destroyer. Now you don't see many of these because it was sort of introduced as a sort of replacement for the E25. That was the suggestion, but it is nowhere near an E25, and it never really sold. And they've tried to sell it again, but people just didn't like it. Just shy of 3,000 games. That is all a very small sample across 30 days of gameplay. 828.28 average damage is just horrible. There was talk about them upgrading the gun on this thing. It currently has a 90mm, and it's not great, is the bottom line. And they were talking about putting 105mm on it, so we'll see whether that actually comes to fruition, because it needs something to compete. Good rate of fire, 9.5 rounds per minute, but look at it, penetration with a standard round only 238. Even with a premium heat shell, you're only doing 250, which is just not enough in the current meta. You know, there's enough tanks out there that you need much more than 250 to penetrate. And remember, this is a Tier 8 German premium tank, so you're going to come up against Tier 10s on a regular basis, and only 240 average damage. Now, the one area that is pretty good, it has that same gun as the RU-251 has. The HE shell on this is very good, 102 penetration with this, and 320 average damage, but still not the best. But you know, you load up enough HE and you pick on the soft targets, you can do a bit of damage in this. 0.32 dispersion is nothing special. Aim time is very good, 1.8. So it's a lackluster gun, and it doesn't get any better with the armor. Look at 30, 30 and 8 on the armor. So you virtually auto-penned with most of the Russian guns that are out there, which is not great. No, the concealment value is extremely good, which I've got a not quite full camo crew, but very high camo crew with a camo net and with camo paint is giving me 61.36 camo, which is very good indeed. But of course, the moment you fire, you get spotted, and good night Vienna with that amount of armor. The thing it is very good at is speed. It's got a lot of mobility. It's only a 26-ton vehicle, 500 horsepower engine. Power ratio isn't outstanding. The WZ and the Skorpion G are better, 19.19 power ratio, but it gets up to 70, and it gets there relatively quickly. So this thing does shift, and that's a good thing, because you need to shift to get out of the way and get somewhere else to hide in it. 50.52 traverse speed, so it whips around very nicely. No way anyone's going to circle you, but then with 30mm of armor they don't really need to. So a good fast TD, but the gun is lackluster and there is no armor on it, so no wonder it is so lowly in the charts. I thought this one actually might come in bottom. So instead of that one being the bottom, the honour goes to the Tier 8 German premium tank destroyer, the Jagdtiger 8.8. Now I'm a bit surprised by that. I thought this was nothing special, but I didn't think it was the worst tank destroyer at Tier 8, but statistically it is by some considerable distance. 30,000 games, 815.43 average damage. I mean, that is just what's my maths doing? 500 less damage than the top damage dealer. That's a huge amount of damage. And I'm somewhat surprised. This thing is a preferential matchmaking tank, so again that would give it, so it only ever sees Tier 9 as a maximum, and that should give it a huge advantage. And it has had buffs. Fairly recently it had a big buff, and you know, I really thought it would be better than this. Rate of fire is 11.8 with obviously 88mm gun on this. Only 203 standard pen, and I guess this is the problem. Pen of 203 with standard rounds and only 237 with premium rounds is not that great. 240 average damage, and I guess in this day and age players just don't think about firing at weak spots and just load up the premium rounds and just blast into any available surface of the enemy tanks. And of course with only 237 penetration against the front of some of the tanks this thing's going to face, that won't go through even by hitting that skill button. Dispersion is pretty good, 0.31, and aim time of 2 is also very good indeed. It's a big bus though. It's a huge tank and very easy to spot and shoot at. 250 armor is not bad, however, but it's a little bit flat, particularly up around the what would have been the turret area here. 1,300 hit points is not bad though, but 250 frontal armor should be okay. But your lower plate is like jelly, and this flat area here for high caliber guns is very easy to pen. It's very well, it's not that slow. It's had a little bit of a boost, but look at that, 9.95 power ratio means it's very slow to get away from the lights. 38 top speed if it ever gets to it, but it's a big old bus, which means concealment values are just horrible, even with pretty much a full I haven't got a full camera crew because there's no point on this thing. Reasonable crew with paint on it. I'm only getting 14.66 camo value because it's just so blinking big. So it's a big slow moving bus with the penetration which is a little bit lackluster, although it's very rapid firing, and that's kind of where it suffers, and it certainly is. And I was still surprised to see it bottom of the pile, but yeah, stats don't lie. Certainly VB addicts stats don't lie. So there you go. I hope you found that interesting, useful, and surprising in some cases. I certainly was surprised that this thing, the WZ fake tank, was number 1 in terms of damage dealt in the game. I was very surprised the Jagdtiger came in bottom of the pile. I put the complete list of all 18 tanks in the video description above, so take a look at that, or actually below, sorry. Take a look at that if you're interested where your favourite tanks are. I was somewhat surprised by this, and also I suppose I shouldn't be surprised by the fact that premium tanks are dominating this category. 4 of the top 5 damage dealers were premiums, and it's just part of the way the game is going now. Premium tanks rule the roost, very much so. But anyway, I hope you found it useful and interesting. Let me know in the chat down below what you think about it, whether you are surprised by anything, what you feel about the WZ, and or about the Jagdtiger or any other tanks in the charts, whether you're surprised how low or how high they are. As I say, there's a number there that surprised me somewhat, but I do like this tank particularly. The Borsig Skorpion have a bit of a love-hate with. The S1 similarly, the Charioteer I absolutely love, and the CDA I love, but at number 6 is the Su 101, and I just can't get on with that thing, but clearly people do. And the UDES at number 7 is a good tank for me. So it's all personal choices and how you feel about things, but I'd love to know what you think, and let me know in the discussion down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. In the meantime, enjoy your games, have fun, try not to take it too seriously, and I'll see you again soon. This is GamerDom signing out.